Yeah, what up, Raider Nation? What's going on, Gavin?
Not too much, to be honest with you. It's at that point of time where not a lot's really happening. Just waiting to see what happens with the roster, really.
Yeah, so we were off for about a week and a half. Mostly my fault. I've just been busy. I know you've been waiting for me, but yeah, man.
Yeah.
Work happens sometimes. So, but I'm back. We're back. Hey, we recorded about a week and a half ago. We recorded a interview with Thor.
Yeah, Thor Nystrom.
Not the superhero. He works for Rotoworld. He's a colleague of Josh Norris, and he's an expert in college football and scouting. So he does all year is watch college football and come up with draft grades for Rotoworld. So he's a good guy, smart guy. I wasn't surprised, man. He also shit on the Raiders draft picks, which you'll get to hear later. But I haven't met anyone who likes it. I guess the PFF is the only one that is like, they like it the most, and they're like so about it.
Yeah, it was one of those where it was always going to divide opinion.
Yeah, it was like you like it, the approach they took, or you're like, nah. But it was definitely not a Reggie McKenzie draft, I tell you that.
Nah, oh no, it wasn't, because I think there would have been a lot of different names apart from maybe Arden Key and Maurice Hurst. Where they fell, I think they would have been taken where they were taken, but just purely how the ball fell and how teams perceived them. But yeah, I think that we can reserve judgment until we see them actually put on a helmet.
No, I mean, Maurice Hurst is a steal if he doesn't, They kept saying he's gonna die, blah blah blah, but the doctors cleared him, so I think that was a steal. Only thing I have a problem with, really, I mean, PJ Hall, second round pick, maybe we can develop him. The only thing I have a problem with is Brandon Parker moving up, giving up draft picks, moving up for Brandon Parker and taking him. But
yeah. I didn't think that made sense.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that. We'll post that. And we get into it more with the Thor interview. I'm sorry, at Rotoworld.
Yeah,
let's talk about what's been happening, man, lately. Raider Nation.
Not too much, really. Obviously, there was talk about when Donald Penn had all the trouble going on that he'd have to take a pay cut, but that's all gone quiet. And then obviously Colby Wadman, the punter, was released. There's not really been a lot, to be quite honest with you. It's been very quiet.
No more punter battle, huh?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, you don't draft one in the 5th round if you're going to keep another guy in. I just think that they're rolling with what they believe in, and Townsend's the guy, it seems.
Yeah. So, I was looking at their 90-man roster because, going into training camp, there'll be maybe will there still be a little switching here and there, but currently there's 44 on offense, 41 on defense, and 5 special teams players.
Yeah,
in the 90-man roster. So,
well, that just shows you that they've got a lot of thinking to do, because obviously that has to be whittled down quite substantially. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets the chop, and some of these players will make the practice squad as well, don't forget. So it's not all going to be cuts. It'll be partly cuts, it'll be partly practice squad and so forth.
Hey, so let's look at the roster real quick. Let's look at the positional battles that probably be heading into training camp, right? So we got a offensive line. I think we got it pretty much. I think right tackle is going to be a battle, because I thought in the beginning that Colton Miller would play right tackle, then next year switch to left tackle. But I think they want to leave him in left tackle just behind Penn, and which kind of makes sense, I guess, because you don't want him to focus on right tackle technique, then try to switch and play left tackle. Because it seems easy, but Donald Penn, when he had to, in the year before last, when he had to play right tackle, week one against the Saints. He said it's trying to learn how to ride with the left hand, so it's not that easy, I guess. It just seems easier than it is.
No, it's tough. It can be tough. That's why I'm saying when some people are like, oh, let's switch around Kelechi Osemele, you don't move a guy like that. You know, he's a pro bowler in that position. You don't move him from that position because he's now down that spot. You know, I don't know. It's tough because obviously you have to have linemen who are versatile and who can play, you know, along the line. But when you're talking about pro bowlers and players of that caliber, you really want to keep them where they're performing, because if you do move them, it could hinder their performance, but also the Raiders as well.
Yeah, so probably right tackle will probably be a battle. You know what I think? Because I was looking at, a lot of people were saying David Sharp is going to make the right tackle, make the roster. But, like, he doesn't, you know, when you look at the offensive linemen and tackles that Gruden and, what's our O-line coach, Tom Cable likes to put out there, they're like athletic guys. And David Sharp's more built like a guard than a tackle. I don't know if he makes a roster.
I'll tell you one to watch out for is Jalen Ware.
Yeah. That's who I thought. He's the one that most meets all the threshold for athleticism.
Yep.
And he's already has. So I like him.
I'm telling you now, he'll make the roster. That's my bold prediction. Jalen Ware will make the roster.
That was what I was thinking too. I think personally, he might beat out, you know, Breno and Sharp and Silberman, whoever. So I think right tackle battle is going to be between Parker, Jalen Ware, and Vidal. I think Vidal gets moved inside. I think Vidal makes a roster because he has he can play both guard and tackle.
Yeah, that's the versatility point I was making as well. You know, some of these guys aren't really brilliant at just doing one thing, but they're serviceable in a variety of positions.
Yeah. And another thing, I was looking at Gruden last coach in 2008, and I was looking at the roster. He carried 2 fullbacks and 3 or 4 running backs. I think he carried 3 running backs and 2 fullbacks. So we might have, obviously, Keith Smith coming over from Dallas, and we might have that guy from Michigan, too, Pogge, that looks like a John Gruden Oakland Raider fullback. He's got the mullet, big bruiser. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen him.
So that would be cool. I want to see him. Maybe he might make the roster as the second fullback. You never know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because you've got fullbacks, running backs, but he's going to be asking a lot of the tight ends this year as well. So it depends how he feels. He could just roll with a 1 fullback and roll with an extra tight end. Yeah,
we'll see. If we carry 3 tight ends, it'll probably be Cook, Lee, and Carrier. We have 3 other tight ends on the roster, but I think they're just for the camp, trying to see who make the practice squad. Farrell Cooper has a small shot, but you have Bow and Butler probably won't make it.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time to see what unfolds. But in terms of the offensive, the positioning, I'm not too worried with the offense. I think that's pretty set. We've got a good offensive line. Yeah, there's going to be a couple of adjustments, but all in all, it's pretty much staying the same except for adding wide receivers and stuff. Whereas the defense is going to look very, very different, in terms of personnel.
Yeah. Also, what's really interesting is, running back. Man, I think we carry like 3 running backs. I think Marshawn Lynch makes it. But between Doug Martin, DeAndre Washington, and Jalen Richard, I think 2 of them make it. That's it.
Yeah. I think Jalen Richard and Washington are the 2 to keep an eye on still for that little battle of who's going to make it. I think he's brought in Doug Martin because he likes him and he feels like he he can get the best out of him. You know, he's brought him in. He thinks he can get the best out of him because a couple of years ago he was brilliant.
He has a higher ceiling than the remaining two.
Yeah, but I would say that if you look at Jalen Richard from 2016, he was absolutely phenomenal. So, and out of the two, who's had the better Raiders career so far, it'd be Jalen Richard. I know he struggled last year, but in terms of actually the way he plays and stuff, I think that he could fit in with Gruden because he could manipulate him, put him in the slot from time to time as well. I think that's sort of the direction where he could be heading. Whereas DeAndre Washington, on the other hand, is more of an orthodox running back who can't. I wouldn't say you'd really line him up anywhere else, you know. And I would say that I don't think he's had a better Raiders career so far than Jalen Richard. And Jalen Richard didn't have any pressure on him because he was undrafted and just coming out of nowhere, whereas Washington was actually picked in the draft. So it'll be interesting, though. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think the preseason games will tell a lot between these guys, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but sometimes they give a lot of these guys time in preseason and then still say, no, we're not so sure. You know, you could have a brilliant preseason, but it just all depends on what offense they're going to run, who they feel will benefit them the most, and just what direction they're going in. But I have a feeling that they might cut Jalen Richard, and I'd be gutted because I quite like Jalen Richard. I think he is a serviceable player who you can bring in, who can make an impact if you just limit him to doing one thing, not catching and returning and stuff. But when I say catching, I mean as in, you know, punt returning, kick returning. But you could use him in catching and in the backfield and stuff. But yeah, it'll be interesting, I'd say.
Yeah. And also wide receiver, third or fourth. I don't know if we got Nelson, Cooper, Martavis Bryant. And I think 8-man and Switzer makes it as well because Switzer is really good at punt and kick returns. We have Harris. I don't know if he'll make it. I think Switzer's probably a receiver. I don't know. So it's between Switzer and Harris, Dwayne Harris as the returners. Whoever makes it will probably be like the fourth or fifth receiver. I wonder if we carry 6 receivers. 8-man, the draft pick is really highly. I like them coming out of college, so I think he definitely should make the team. It's just going to be.
He reminds me of Andre Holmes.
Yeah,
actually, a lot of Andre Holmes. He reminds me of him. And you know what? When Derek Carr had Andre Holmes, he had that just something extra. You know, if it was a crowded backfield, he had a target. You know, who he could throw the ball up to, and maybe Aitman could be that guy who can come in when the other ones aren't producing as well as they should be.
Yeah, and also I think so. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth battle is probably going to be between, I don't know, Switzer, Seth, and Holton. Switzer probably make it. I don't know if we carry 6.
No, I'm not so sure, but I think that the certainties are definitely Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant, Amari Cooper, Ryan Switzer, Marcel Aitman. I think they are certainties.
Yeah.
I think Switzer is going to prove to be a very good acquisition. I actually really wanted him when he came out in the draft. I was begging for the Raiders to take him just because I knew that he could play in the slot, but also he could be a punt and kick returner, and he's very